Today's aviation and news video focuses in on Boeing with actually some positive developments. The American plane maker is now actively seeking approval to increase production of its popular 737 MAX jet. However, approval may not come until year end. The manufacturer's CEO in Kelly Ortberg, who remember was recently appointed with that all-important challenge of turning around the company's fortunes, confirmed the development following the unveiling of its quarterly performance. Much of the discussion surrounding a production increase for the popular 737 MAX series centers on those restrictions being implemented on the program and production rates capped due to persistent quality issues and the problematic history of the aircraft. Almost immediately after a door blowout incident involving a MAX jet at the beginning of 2024, the FAA imposed pretty harsh restrictions on Boeing and the single-aisle program, which, although the plane maker agreed were warranted, have obviously had a profound impact on the business on a day-to-day basis. The financial position of Boeing, for example, has been incredibly turbulent following the implementation of these production caps, and we've also seen customer confidence drop at times. Boeing is now on a long road to recovery, it has to be said. Despite this, it won't be easy as the 737 MAX continues to be in the limelight and has now solidified itself among many members of the public as an aircraft name that will never not be tarnished. Some would go as far as saying it's cursed. For Boeing to win over the Federal Aviation Administration, there needs to be considerable but also sustained evidence that improvements are being made across the business, with a greater focus on safety and maintaining the highest quality standards. Global aircraft lessors, among other airlines that have visited the production floor over the last 12 months, have highlighted their own noticeable improvements. However, it does remain more complex for the FAA to really grant Boeing the necessary permission to ramp up production of its popular 737 MAX, just because, say, some airlines and lessors say that improvements are being made. Across the first quarter, Boeing reports an increase in production, reflecting the general stability that the company is finally achieving. Forecasting still shows a hope to reach an output rate of 38 units per month at some point this year. All discussion of the 737 MAX and its potential production ramp-up rate finally materializing follows the quarterly results being published, and this is where there were actually some positives. The first quarter saw a reported overall net loss of USD 31 million, which on the surface is still a net loss, don't get me wrong, but it actually does represent a colossal improvement year over year, and what is a positive step in the right direction with all the adversity that they continue to face. See, in the same quarter 1 year prior, Boeing reported losses of the USD 355 million. This a pretty substantial figure. I would certainly agree with you that you could put a little bit of an asterisk next to this figure, considering nothing was really helped by the door blowout incident happening in Q1 and the subsequent groundings, but you can only take what you're given, and this highlighted the challenges that Boeing was facing as a company during that period. Recovery has really been at the forefront of their mind, and we have seen many other improvements made that have resulted in revenues rising around 18% to USD 19.5 billion. This is a figure that exceeded analysts' estimates. For Boeing, some of the biggest jumps were in the form of aircraft deliveries, which actually increased by almost 60% year over year as more planes than ever were shipped off. In fact, across the first 2 months of the calendar year, Boeing actually outperformed Airbus, only really for the first quarter narrowly losing out to them in terms of delivery rates, really aided by Airbus having a very strong March. This, however, is something to be commended for closing the gap, even if it was only initially. You'd imagine the gap between the two is expected to balloon out in the future, but it is a solid start for them. Moving ahead, there does still remain considerable uncertainty around the impact of global tariffs, as China has recently rejected the delivery of new commercial aircraft from Boeing. It's therefore presenting challenges to the company on how they will address the matter. The legalities are where you can have that profound impact, but Boeing at least doesn't find itself in a position where it is unable to find customers to take on the planes that were initially destined for, say, China, but are now not going to plan. Already, Air India and Malaysia Airlines have expressed their own desire to take on such planes as the 737 MAX, which would have been again destined for Chinese operators, but is now not eventuating due to global political tensions. This is not the first time we've seen something like this take place. Look no further than Russia in the last 2 to 3 years, the impact that has had on the global aviation industry and the requirement for manufacturers that maybe had orders from Russia Russian operators to send those aircraft to other airlines. It is a key reason as to why Air India has been able to grow its A350 fleet so quickly. Keen to hear your take on some of the visible improvements that we are seeing unfold at Boeing. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. As always, please take care, do be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for your next industry recap.
And we'll fly.